It's fairly common for people to comment that things in the mainstream suck, whether it's music or movies or whatever. Um, People that have a good head on their shoulders, so to speak, are, for the most part, in consensus that the mainstream is really lame in what it puts out. It's just a lot of trash, basically. But what I haven't heard is a good explanation as to why that is. And I believe I know the answer. So I'm going to share that with you. And this will probably seem pretty incredible or out there to a lot of people, but nevertheless, I believe it's accurate. So, one thing that people are missing when they're looking at society and they're looking at problems in society is the pyramidal structure of the system itself, and more specifically, the chain of command that exists within that pyramid. This is not complicated thing to grasp. I'm simply talking about how people take orders from other people that are quote unquote above them, in the hierarchy. So, when you work at a company, right, there's a hierarchy, right? You have like the top CEO, and then you have the vice president, whatever, and then going down the line, right? And when someone at the top issues an order, it is disseminated down, you could say, the pyramid, right? It's structured like a pyramid. You got fewer and fewer as you go up higher and higher, right? So what does this have to do with why the mainstream is exceedingly lame? It's because in society that we live in this world and on the planet Earth, the system, or the shitstem, as I've heard Rastas call it, is run by evil people at the top. And what makes them evil is that they're basically just doing the will of the most evil being in existence, the evil one, Satan. So if you're thinking this is ridiculous, again, I just would ask you to have an open mind here. But if you, on the other hand, don't think this is that incredible of a perspective, you might find this insight as far as the lameness of mainstream content interesting. It might kind of be a mini aha, or just a puzzle piece that you hadn't fit in previously. The reason why it's so lame, and also the reason why the content tends to be immoral, is because it's being directed ultimately from the top by the most extreme lameness and evil that exists. So this is why, for example, like anything that's like really immoral is never actually cool. And this is not just like my opinion. Like, people, again, who have a good head on their shoulders and like recognize when something is actually cool, they can take note. Well, it also tends to not be evil, right? It's not like it has to be like preaching virtues, but it just isn't evil. In order for it to be cool, it can't have that evil contamination that ruins the coolness of it. So what the basic understanding is, right, you have the enemy of God, who is the complete opposite of God. So God is completely awesome and completely good. And so that's why everything that comes out of the mainstream is the opposite. Instead of awesome, it's lame. Instead of good, it's evil, right? It's because everything in the mainstream is, for the most part, a product of the pyramid, which is run at the top by pure evil and lameness. And so that direction and influence comes down through the pyramid, through the system, and is why there's just this consistent garbage that we're exposed to, in all mainstream institutions, whether that's entertainment, education, politics, of course, what have you. It's all, if you're wondering, like, well, why is it so consistently crappy? Like, why is it all just this garbage over and over? It's because the one who's the one who's directing it all, basically, is pure garbage. Like the ultimate extreme, the ultimate, the ultimate lameness embodied, right? Like there's no one more lame than the devil. So, although, people that are like into satanic garbage, they think it's cool, but it definitely is not. Like, it's just extremely disgusting and lame, and of course evil. So, just to wrap this up, hit on the point again, it's because the system is pyramidal in structure, and so you have all these institutions taking orders from higher ups, and the highest at the higher ups at the top of the pyramid are basically just doing the will of Satan, and Satan is completely evil and lame. And so that's why everything, that is allowed and promoted through the system, through the pyramid, is lame and immoral in various ways. And a lot of times you don't even realize how so. You're just listening to some mainstream songs and you don't realize how it's like actually pushing a lame and immoral view, whether it's like encouraging men to be little bitches or encouraging women to be like their sort of counterfeit masculine distorted selves. Of course, that's a big theme lately, and always has been, actually, since the very beginning. The inversion of the natural roles and design of men and women, starting with the story of Adam and Eve, wherein Adam didn't take his role as leader, and then that resulted in the loss of paradise. But again, the main thing I hope some folks will remember to keep in mind is that there is a pyramidal structure to all the institutions in society, and as you go up the chain of command, it gets worse and worse until you get to the worst of the worst at the very top. And so that's why it's all a bunch of garbage that we're exposed to through all these institutions. So best to disconnect from it all as best you can, because it's going to be, and always has been, consistently evil and lame. All right, thanks for listening.